ton up for Marcus Rashford, 63 for him in the Premier League, 100 all in for Manchester United, which is some going for a player that, yes, has played up front for Manchester United, but maybe isn't the most natural goal scorer.
Yeah, I think it's an unbelievable achievement for him, especially as somebody who's had to come through that academy. And the pressures that being at Man United's academy and being somebody that they expect a lot from, made his debut at 17, and now, he's 25 today, I think. You know, he's scored 100 goals for them. With everything what he's done, the significant impact he's made off the pitch, which is like come on top of the pressure that he gets anyway. So any kind of form that dips from him, he gets even more criticism simply because they say he's not focusing on his game. And, you know, it's been hard for him. He's even said it last season, he wasn't in the right frame of mind for whatever reason. And, you know, it seems like he's slowly getting back there to where he wants to be, you know, just playing football and doing the best he can and scoring goals, you know. And it's really hard for him because you always find that it's very feast or famine with him. They either, oh, Marcus is back, we love him so much, or he's playing badly, oh, leave him out of the English squad. It really does, it must be very, how can you say, tiring for him, you know? It must be very tiring.
Because he's emotionally trying to battle against that the whole time. And there is that focus on him, which, as you say, he's brought on himself for the best of reasons with the work that he's done off the pitch. But it was interesting to hear him talk about the way that he's been feeling, where his head's been over the last season. Because I think if a player's injured, you can see that. You can look at the reports. They can physically measure it. But when a player's head isn't right, you can see the impact of it on the pitch, but you can't really put a reason on it. It's difficult for fans to understand.
It's hard to measure. And one we obviously we don't want to measure. We want them to always be happy and healthy. But I think for Rashford, I think the way I saw it, and you can disagree, but when a young player bursts onto the scene, I think they're forgiven for any great stuff and any bad stuff. You know, mistakes on the pitch. They're young, they're raw, they're talented.
Well, you did that, didn't you?
Yeah, and then you kind of go through that period then where you're like, they think that you're older than you are, and then you're experienced. But for Marcus Rashford, you look at the managers that he's had, I bet you none of them coached him. They're all so results-focused. You see this young, talented lad come through. He's young. We were expecting so much from him. Then he does brilliant stuff off the pitch. But yet we've never, I wonder, have they nurtured him to really kick on another gear and educate him and coach him? Because all the managers are like, it's Man United, we need results. Yeah. We need to win. And we've forgotten about this human that needs a young player that constantly is nurturing. And you have to find your own way, and I bet you in that he's had to figure it out. And now he's at a point now where he's in a good environment, he looks happy.
Looks like he's got a coach that might do that as well.
Coach as well, and all of a sudden we've got, wow, Marcus Rashford's back. But did we actually help him in that period? Did we just let him figure it out? I don't know, I'm just saying from my experience that that for me is a most difficult period in your career because there's such expectations. But I felt lost in it, and I wonder, was he feeling the same? And I think that's what I see from him.
It sounds like that's what he's saying.
Yeah, it's
in
hard.
those years,
He credited Erik Ten Hag after that, I think, for those reasons. And Ten Hag said, oh, we told him to work on his heading and on his headers because he missed the one against Newcastle, and there's another one before the goal that he scored or after that he missed as well. And now this is paying off. And I think where your point is perfect is like, I think previous manager didn't tell him, oh, you should do this and let's work on this. Let's go together on the training ground, or you go with one of my assistants and you're going to focus for half an hour, 45 minutes just on hitting the ball that way, or doing that movement, or doing that call or that run. That was non-existent. Now with Ten Hag, it's a very different structure, and that's why I think he's happier as well, because he knows that everything will be done for him at training, either collectively or individually, to get the best out of him. And same with the others. Martinez, Varane, Diogo Dalot has never played as well. Because I think the structure behind, in terms of coaching, is much better than, no offence, but Solskjaer and Rangnick.
Well, but also it's about the atmosphere created at the club. That's what Marcus Rashford talked about as well. He said it feels different going into training, going into matches, being around the football club feels different this season.
I think the manager has to take a lot of credit for going into a club like Manchester United, which is like, it was like rudderless, man. We don't know what was going on. It was just in the middle of the ocean, going nowhere.
And for a bit at the beginning of Ten Hag's regime, we weren't really sure quite what they were going to do with it either.
Especially coming off of Rangnick, we don't know what that was all about. And then, you know, he's come in and he's kind of alongside this Cristiano. We never forgot Cristiano Ronaldo's there as well, with everything that's going on with him. And he's not only got the team to try and play in the way he's trying to play, because, yes, they're still trying to get it done, because there was still opportunities for West Ham to maybe get back in that.
It wasn't a perfect performance.
No, but what you're seeing is a structure of what they're trying to do now. You can start to see it, and there's people fit in it. Marcus Rashford fits in it because we know he's favoured. He likes coming in off that side and attacking it, so they're doing more for that. Dalot, you know, coming off the right, coming inside. We've seen him doing that stuff, what they do at Man City and what Trent does, and he's got the quality now. So we're seeing something happen at Manchester United where there's structure. So in the structure, you can improve. And we're seeing that with, like you mentioned, Dalot. We're seeing it with Marcus Rashford. You know, you want to see it with more players. We've seen Martinez at the back. Yeah. I like Luke Shaw. I like Luke Shaw when he's playing well, because he gets up and down there, he gets good crosses in the box, and, you know, he's somebody that, when his mind's right, when everything's right for him, he's a very good player. The same with Eriksen. I think Eriksen's magnificent. The ball, so it's starting to happen for Man United, and I'm not too averse to that, simply because it's a better league. When the top teams are doing well, it's much better. And Erik ten Hag, up to this point, he's done brilliantly at that place with the resources. And
the player that you've both mentioned there, Leandro Martinez, is proving a lot of people wrong, because there is a... but I think probably a fair criticism before he played, and maybe in the early days when they were 4-0 down against Brentford at half-time and games like that, where people said he doesn't have the physical stature to play a central defender in the Premier League. But what we've seen is being tall doesn't necessarily... or, sorry, not being tall doesn't necessarily mean that you lack aggression.
Exactly.
No, and I think he's got plenty of that, the green tag that he has. He's a fighter anyway, and I think he would take on any strikers in the world, whether it's Erling Haaland or Diego Maradona, or whether they're big or small or quick or slow.
He might struggle going up to head the ball against Erling Haaland.
Yeah,
maybe.
but I think and to be fair, I think City targeted his side of the defence against United, and he worked well for them, but if he can't win the ball in the air, his reading of the game is great, and his positioning is very good, and I think people have discovered that in this country.
The thing about it is, Kels, is that when you've got a centre-half that is that size, of course, a good like I said, you can target him, because there's nothing he can do about his size. You know what I mean? So if you get the ball in and around him, he's probably going to lose that duel. But what I see with him in the sense of his positioning, he's playing out of defence. You know what I mean? I saw that West Ham broke on him twice when Harry Maguire went in and committed himself, and he's the one who came round, held him up, showed him down the line, you know, Benrahma, and just slowed it all down. We're talking about a top defender. We are talking about a top defender, and I'm quite pleased that he's starting to show people, because the quality will come through. Easy to just point your finger at someone and say, look how small he is. I remember the first time I played against Cannavaro at Napoli. Thinking, my gosh, he's a centre-half. You know what I mean? Then when he started, to be fair, he could jump, jump out of the studio.
Like Zebedee.
Size means nothing as a centre-half, and plus, he's, like you mentioned, rightly mentioned, Jules, his positioning and his ball-playing skills are fantastic.
Yeah, I wonder if it's something that we just do in the Premier League naturally anyway, is say...
I didn't want to say it, but yeah, it's lazy.
No, but we concentrate on what people can't do. So that, for example, and we'll talk about him later, and it's a slightly different situation this season, but Trent Alexander-Arnold, with the concentrating on, well, which part of his defensive game is he lacking, rather than talk about what he brings to the team and why he might be chosen. Similarly,
it's very negative,
with Martinez, it's, well, OK, so he might not win the one-on-one duels for a header, but everything else that he brings to the game outweighs that.
Kels, it's very... It's lazy punditry. It's like what they say about managers. Certain managers, he's not managed here, so he can't do it. And then they say, he's too small in the Premier League. It's going to be too much for him.
But it's a genuine question to ask, though. I mean, it would be remiss not to say before he came in, he's not tall enough. So will he be able to, for example, go? Because there are a lot.
We're not used to it, though, are we? Probably there's only been a few, and probably that's probably what we're not familiar with, and it didn't help probably the Brentford game or the teams that do go after that, and then he's gone, oh, there it is, it's highlighted that area, but he's a great technician. That's why he can play holding midfield as well. He can bring the ball out from the back. As you said, sometimes what you're lacking one thing, you have to make up in other areas. So his intelligence is second to none.
For all we know, they might be doing that, Kels. They might be playing him there until maybe someone else comes in and then move him into the defensive midfield role. You never know what he's going. But at the moment, playing as centre-half, I don't think he's doing badly at all. I think he's doing very well, in fact.
Might be hard next to Casemiro, though, Wrighty.
Yes.
Player.
Two together,
Wow.
maybe.
Wow.
Yeah, you never know.
You know,
He's
they could play two. They played Fred and McTominay for long enough, so I'm
I'd
sure
love
they could
that,
play
though.
Casemiro and Martinez.
Casemiro and Martinez, an upgrade on Fred and McTominay.
Just a little, I think. I'd say just a little one, yeah.
But Casemiro, as you say,
Oh
has
my God,
been
love him.
fantastic. Took a while for him to actually start games for Manchester United, but now he has.
I think like he just embedded him really well. Just didn't put him right in at the deep end. Got him in, got him feeling it, seeing the system and everything. He just made such a difference. I remember watching him in the Champions League. Sorry, Kelly. Watching him in the Champions League final. He was just how he reads the game, his positional sense, and you're thinking, oh, they've signed a player you probably wouldn't give a certain age a longer contract or put so much. He's just an absolute joke. How he orchestrates everything, protects, and you know you talk about Martinez, but when you've got him in front, to give him that protection as well. And for me, he's been a game changer.
There's also sometimes a question mark about, you know, if a team like Real Madrid or a big team lets somebody go, then maybe they're not quite at the top of their game. But we saw that even the reaction to scoring the equaliser against Chelsea was so intense. This is not a player who's, you know, coasting towards the end of his career.
No,
this is a player who the fire in him is still very much lit.
Yeah.
It's a winner.
And Real Madrid would not have let him go if he hadn't wanted. He pushed for the move. I think this was an opportunity financially as well.
Yes.
That he could not really refuse.
But even then, sometimes that as a motivation means a player isn't necessarily driven in the same way. But that is, I mean, we're not saying that at all about Casemiro.
Clearly
But
in
the
it,
mindset
though,
that he
isn't it?
has. Yeah, the mindset that he has.
It's one of those, again, he's one of those players that, for young players who's watching a holding midfielder, a defensive midfielder, he can, obviously, we've seen get in the box and score as well, with his attitude and the way, he is the perfect person to watch, the way he naturally, he just gets himself into the dangerous positions and blocks it out. You know, this is why I was quite surprised that he didn't start from before, because we're talking about somebody who can deal with any situation. If you could be at Real Madrid for as long as he has with the players he's had to play with, and that to come into Manchester United's team and play in that position, I would have started him straight off the bat. I don't think he needs any kind of like bedding in period, because he's so good.
And the next step, I think, just quickly, 2 seasons ago, he scored 13 goals in the league for Real Madrid. I think he's got that. We saw
He's got that
Chelsea,
as well, yeah.
But he's got that ability, and once everything is in place, I think Ten Hag will maybe look at getting him into the box a little bit more to use that.
Yeah.
See, and if he plays Martinez in there...
Yeah, right.
Here we go. So, thanks, Kaz.
We're getting there. We're all in there now, and it looks like it's all coming together for Manchester United, but not quite there yet. And there could still be bumps in the road, but there's very definitely a plan in place for Manchester United who feel like they are on the up.
I counted 3 mentions of the word spirit there, and attitude. How well has he done to build that in such a short space of time from, let's be honest, an all-time low really at times last season?
Yeah, you know what? I think everybody talks about signing players and playing philosophies and style, but I think the best teams I ever played on, there was a togetherness in the dressing room, which you stuck together in difficult moments, right? So you've been there. You know what it's like when you only really know a team and its players when you're under pressure, and then you see how they respond. After the first 2 games, you thought, wow, this is way worse than we thought. And he came in, changed it up a little bit, changed the tactics, played on the counter, less possession. And all of a sudden now he said about control. He wants more control in the game. He doesn't want the defenses to have to do so much, to have it ahead to make so many saves. He wants them to have the ball and control the game. And that's his style. But they're doing a bit of both now. Defensively, they're solid variety. And on the ball, they're improving as well.
I think you can't underestimate the enormity of the job that he's taken on with everything that's going on upstairs with Manchester United and the playing staff, the Cristiano Ronaldo situation. For him to then, you know, and the poor performances, for him to come in like he has done and turn it around slowly. I think Ronaldo's kind of like contributed to the fact that he's got more time because of the way he's behaved in certain situations. He's made it easier for Ten Hag, because maybe if he didn't make so much noise off the pitch about not playing and walking off and that, it might have been to put more pressure on him. But that the players have responded. You've heard the players talking about different players. Everybody's playing well. Marcus Rashford, they're reeling off. David De Gea reeling off of like 5 or 6 players who are playing well. He's turned it all around, and they're on his bandwagon with where he's going, with what they're trying to do. And I think that up to this point, he's got to be commended for what he's done. I think it's a magnificent effort up to this point, simply because of the club he's gone into and the noise that comes with that, and having a superstar like Ronaldo on your books, that you've got to deal with all that situation. It's underestimated what he's doing.
I don't know, Ajax is a big club in Europe and Holland, but this is a whole new level that he's used to on a personal level as well.
Yeah, and the spotlight, as Wright mentioned, we've seen that with a lot of players that have come here, huge players that have come here, and the spotlight maybe hasn't been so kind to them, which Manchester United brings, because of the expectation that it brings, and maybe not rightly so, because the squad hasn't been at the level to compete with Man City and Liverpool. But I'm with Wrighty. Credit Ten Hag, you know, tough start, as tough a start as you could have had after Brighton and Brentford, you know, and everybody thought, woof, you know, what's going on here? And he realised, he made some changes real quick, big calls that he's made.
Very calm, isn't he?
Yeah, he's calm. You know, and you got to balance the dressing room as well, Steve, you know, which is hard, the emotions of individuals and emotions of the team, but also that the team performs. And the fact of the matter is, they've been some big teams, Liverpool, Arsenal, Chelsea. Spurs, yeah. You know, they're in a good place, and they don't look like they have as many weaknesses as they've done. So he's done a fantastic job.
And the discipline side of it as well, which was always levelled at United over the last 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, well, he's sorting everything out. And like I said, with him and his personality, he seems very calm. You know, and the Dutch are very straight talking. I get the impression that if you're in and around him, if he's pulling you to talk to you, he's looking you straight in the eye, telling you what he wants and what he wants you to do. And I feel that a lot of those players, and they do look a lot fitter and a lot stronger. I think a lot of those players have probably had the talk with him. You know, he's somebody that, when I read that, everybody talked about the 13 kilometres that they had to run after Brentford. But they kind of left out the fact that he ran it as well, because he said that he was to blame as well. You know what I mean? So,
that's cool, yeah.
You know what I mean? You know what I mean,
yeah.
Owen? So we're talking about somebody who's really ingrained, really deep, and you know what I mean? He's not afraid to point at himself as well. So we're talking about now getting into a situation where this guy is probably going to go where they want him to go, depending on what goes on upstairs.
Well, listen, we're not running 13 kilometres, but we must run. Both of your former clubs have won today.